Hey there tech fans, Rick here again from the OREI team. In today's video, I'll show you how you can easily access the internal graphical user interface on the OREI HDS-816 or the HDS-1616. Now both of these products provide several different ways for you to control the media content and actually change the internal configuration. Starting with the buttons on the front, you can simply tap a few buttons on the front panel on either one of these products to quickly redirect the media content to a different output display. But those buttons provide limited control over the actual configuration. Your second option is to use the included infrared remote control, and you can make some of those same changes from quite a distance away from the product, which is really convenient, but again, it offers limited control over the configuration changes inside the unit. Your third option is to use the included cable. You can plug the RS-232 end of it into the back of the unit and plug the USB-A end of it into an open port on a local computer, and then open up a control window and issue several commands to change some of the basic configuration settings. But by far the most expansive way to control these units is through that graphical user interface, and it's incredibly easy to use. So the first thing you'll need to do is to check the IP address of your unit. And you can do that by turning it on and watching the digital display. It'll actually tell you what the current IP address is. Now that may not match your network settings, so you may have to change that IP address, and that's fully explained in the manual. But once you change that address to match your network, you can plug a LAN cable into the back of the unit, add it to your network, and then simply open a web browser on any computer connected to that network and point it at the IP address of the unit. And you'll be greeted by the login screen. Now if you stay tuned next, I'll show you how to log into the unit. I'll explain the various configuration settings inside the product that you can change, and then I'll come back with a few final thoughts. Once you've opened your browser and made a connection to the video matrix through the LAN port, you'll be greeted by the main login screen. Here you'll need to enter the right details to access the matrix. The default username is admin with a capital A and 1234 for the default password. Once you've entered these, be sure to tap the login button to enter the matrix. You can change this password later to something more secure if needed. Once you've entered the matrix, you'll see several choices for the configuration sections on the left, and the first one is the status page, where you'll find a lot of important information about the matrix. Here, you can see the model number and main version of firmware that's currently installed on the product, which is important in case there is a newer version of firmware available. A little further down on the screen, you'll see the current connection details, such as the current IP address and subnet mask, as well as the gateway. These can be changed later if needed to match your local network for future access to the product. The next tab down on the menu is the Matrix tab, and this is where you can easily choose which input is being directed to which output device. You'll see a section for the input devices on the top and another section for the output devices on the bottom. To change which input is being directed to a specific output, simply choose the input you'd like to change and then select a new output from the choices provided. If you'd like to remember these settings, you can name them as presets and save or retrieve them later on the bottom portion of the page. This can make recalling a standard setup much easier. The Input tab will display the current connection status for all of the inputs. There is an indicator for each, confirming the connection to a media device for that particular input. On this tab, you can also adjust the EDID settings for each device to accommodate a wide variety of different media profiles. You can simply click the arrow next to the input you'd like to change and select a new EDID setting from the list. You also have the option to turn HDCP on and off for each of these inputs. If you have a preferred set of EDID settings, you can recall these saved settings later by simply browsing your computer. You can also save your current settings to your computer for later use. The Output tab is very similar to the Input tab and provides complete control over all of the output streams. It offers a visual indicator to show that you have a monitor connected to each of these outputs individually. You can also quickly rename each of these outputs on this page to make them easier to remember for later use. You also have complete control over the output streams and can turn those on and off as needed. The next tab down is the Network tab, which allows you to adjust the network and login details for the matrix. In the top section, You can adjust the network address for the matrix on the LAN and either choose it manually or let DHCP find an open address if your network provides this feature. On the bottom section, you can change the login credentials for both the user and admin accounts. This tab also allows you to rename the matrix to something else if you're using the device in a commercial installation. You also have the ability to reset these values to the factory settings if needed. Always be sure to tap the Save button to implement your changes. The final tab provides control over some of the most important settings for how the matrix operates. On this page, you can easily enable and disable the panel lock, turn the beep on and off, as well as control how long the LCD display stays on after a period of inactivity. If you're using the RS-232 port to connect, you can also adjust the serial baud rate as needed to match your computer. This is also the screen that you'll use to update the firmware if needed. To do this, you can simply browse for the file on your computer and apply it to the matrix. Finally, this tab allows you to do a complete factory reset of the matrix or even reboot it over the network if it ever needs to be reset. I hope you found this overview of the graphical user interface available on both of these products helpful. Through that interface, you can make changes to every configuration setting both of these products provide, including changing the input and output relationships, changing the EDID settings, turning certain functions on and off, updating firmware, and even resetting the box if needed to factory settings. Everything is incredibly easy to access through that interface, and once you connect it to your network, you simply open a web browser on any computer connected to that network and make the changes you need. And that's all I had for today, so hopefully you found this review helpful. And until next time, as always, thanks again for watching.